A lot of Raiders players have done really well at the NFL Combine, and some others not so well. So let's take a look and see how our favorite Raiders have performed at the Combine, and that will help us this week. This week we have the 2022 NFL Combine. We will see people perform drills like the 40-yard dash, bench press, vertical jump, so we can see how these people did and compare that to our current roster. So let's get right into it. My name is Wi-Fi Willie of the Raiders Rundown, and remember to please subscribe to this channel, like this video if you're watching it right now, and support us so we can keep making great Raiders content for you every single day. Okay, let's get right into it and start off with our quarterback, Derek Carr. Here are some grades and numbers brought to you by Next Gen Stats. So, 3-cone drill did not participate in the bench press as well, but had a 4.69 40-yard dash and also had a 34.5-inch vertical jump. He was seen as a really athletic QB coming out of the draft, and when you look at this 40-yard time, it is up there with Mitchell Trubisky, up there with Russell Wilson, and in 2014, he was the 4th or 5th fastest quarterback in the draft. Johnny Manziel, people like him were right before him. A lot of talent coming from Derek Carr, seen as really athletic, but still had a 6.3 grade. Not a complete year one starter, but will start in the NFL within 2 years. When you look at how everybody reviewed Derek Carr coming out of the draft, there was a lot of talk that he would for sure be a starter. He would eventually be an elite talent. Now let's look at some of the pros and cons for Derek Carr. He can evade the rush and has great arm talent. Now, something I saw really interesting in his combine draft profile. A lot of people said he was really good at evading defenders, getting outside of the pocket, making throws on the run. And it's funny because nowadays people consider that one of his detriments. It's actually not an asset for Derek Carr, but in the combine, he was seen as somebody who can extend plays and had amazing arm talent. The main con that they had for Derek Carr was that he forces throws sometimes. Sometimes he forces it a little too aggressive, a little too confident at times, and struggles with the deep ball placement. And it's pretty funny because nowadays that's almost like his asset. He's really good at the deep ball. You saw that happen last year with even Zay Jones was still effective in his deep passing game. And you also notice that Derek Carr is kind of conservative. He picks and chooses when he wants to take some shots and has great ball placement in those situations. And his detriment today, like I said earlier, would be that he doesn't always extend plays with his legs, would be that he doesn't always rush right like he could with that 4.69 40-yard time speed. But I will say that Colts game that we won last year, that deep ball to Hunter Renfrow, that play was made because Derek Carr evaded a pass rusher. So you can't knock him entirely. He is still extending plays, but this is what people thought about our quarterback in 2014 during that draft, and I'm glad the Raiders were able to snag him in the second round. Josh Jacobs did not participate at the NFL Combine, but did work out in the Pro Day. But since this is Combine Week, I ain't talking about a Pro Day. I'm talking about the Combine during Combine Week, okay? But our 2019 draft pick was seen as a great pick, as a year one starter, year one quality starter, 6.7 grade here. And I did look at his 40 time, at least in the Pro Day, and it was about 4.56. Here's what people said about Josh Jacobs. Violent finisher. Good pass catcher, and that's something that was really interesting. A lot of people thought his passing game was one of his biggest assets. And I remember on draft night, that's what they showed on ESPN, talked about how he had limited snaps, not a lot of tread on the tires, and a great pass catcher. But when you look at Josh Jacobs, as a Raider, this past season, he had the most targets, most receptions in his NFL career. And I would say pass catching is not one of his assets. That's why you go out and get Kenyon Drake. That's why you still have Jalen Richard in the mix, is because there are just other running backs who are better pass catchers than Josh Jacobs at this point. So kind of weird that was considered one of his assets, and maybe they'll come back. Maybe he'll end up being an all-around Alvin Kamara next year. Who knows? I hope so. But violent finisher, we know that. This dude knows how to lay a hit, knows how to lower the shoulder. The con in the draft, lacks home run speed and explosiveness. Sometimes his cuts, they said, were a little too exaggerated, but overall, really positive draft profile, I would say. Not a lot of negatives. Like, for me to find this negative was actually a little difficult. I personally think that it makes more sense now, the fact that we picked him late in the first round, because of how positive his draft profile was. On draft night, I was kind of like, running back in the first round, come on. But hey, he's a Pro Bowler, and you got to consider this pick a success. Even though it's a running back, you're taking him high in the draft, you got to consider this a success. And unfortunately, we don't have the combine profile, but we'll wait till Pro Day to really compare him to the running backs in this upcoming draft. Denzel Perryman, one of our newest favorite players, hilarious in press conferences. If you have not watched Denzel Perryman in a press conference, run it back and watch it. Watch it the day Gruden resigned. He did a press conference. He was eating like potato chips during it. It was pretty funny. But 40-yard time, 4.78, vertical jump, 32 inches, and a 27 rep bench. So this guy is hella strong. Like, this bench for a linebacker is really good. Some linemen don't even have this kind of bench at times. 6.20 grade. People said he would be a backup who could eventually start, considered him a thumper, right? A traditional old school linebacker. That was his profile coming out of college in Miami, and that's exactly what he has been. Besides this past year, Denzel Perryman lost a lot of weight coming into this season, was able to be a lot quicker this season, and I think a lot more talented in coverage. And that's the pro here, is that he's a great hitter, great vision, sheds blocks really well, can get to the running back, but lacks the twitch. That's the con. Not that great in coverage. However, I think this is when he was coming out of college. I think he's really improved in pass coverage. You've seen him get offended by people on Twitter criticizing his pass coverage today. But the linebacker he is today is so different than what he was coming out of college. He's a lot faster. I think better in coverage. He just straight up weighs less. He weighs less today than before. Typically with NFL players, they weigh less in college and gain weight in NFL to become stronger. But Perryman shed some pounds, got a little leaner, and shout out to him. Hopefully he has a great year this year. Darren Waller, everybody's favorite. If you're a Raiders fan, he's your favorite player, right? He's your favorite player, physical freak, man. Look at this, man. 12 rep bench, really great for a wide receiver, 37-inch jump, and that's, that's partly because of his height. I mean, let's be real. 4.46 40 time, though. Incredibly fast for somebody this big, this strong, 7.07 three-cone drill. 5.9 grade, though. Georgia Tech wide receiver, that's what Darren Waller was. He was still considered a backup, maybe a special teamer coming out of college, but a lot of people said he was a talented Georgia Tech receiver. They produced a lot of great receivers around this time in 2015. They said one of his pros is that he plays to his height, has great vertical speed. You see that 4.46 40 time. The main problem with him, and they said he was not a great run blocker, and we know this today. That's a knock that people have on Darren Waller as a tight end. And I know you want your tight end to be able to block, but we don't pay Darren Waller money to block. We want him catching the ball, right? So I wouldn't put that as a knock on him too much, although that's what people say. He's not a great run blocker or whatever. But the biggest con that I saw is he loses his speed when locating the ball. And I've actually kind of seen this in certain games. If he has a deep target from Derek Carr, most of the time he's great, but there are certain times where it seems like he is looking for the football a little prematurely, and then boom, he doesn't get to the ball in time. And that happens with a lot of receivers. And this is what they said coming out of college. Who knows? Who knows if this really happens with Darren Waller at this moment, but I feel like I've seen it before. It's hard to judge Darren Waller because he just did not play much last year. So we really only have 2020 and 2019 to go off of. But I think he'll bounce back this year, hopefully be injury-free and have a really great year. Yannick Ngakoue. This was a man that Mike Mayock was actually really high on coming out of the draft. You can look at some video of Mayock talking about Ngakoue on ESPN in the 2016 draft. 7.35 three-cone drill, 4.7 40-yard dash with a 34-inch vertical jump and 26 bench press reps. Really great. A great outside linebacker. We know that his problem, even coming out of college, is how is he going to defend against the run, and that's some of the cons here, lacks the shed strength, and when he wants to shed blockers, doesn't necessarily have the strength to do so, kind of relies on a deep pass rush move where he has to go 5 yards deep when pass rushing to make his moves, but flexible, high motor, great moves. People really liked his pass rushing skills coming out of college. And I thought it was really weird to see this because I didn't really notice this last year. Let me know if you guys noticed this, but his snap timing. People said, oh, this guy, he has trouble. Sometimes he comes a little late when the ball is snapped, or he comes a little early. Perhaps he's grown since 2016 and that's not a problem for him anymore, but that's what they're saying. And it's pretty funny when you look at all these people. Backup, 5.9 grade. Waller, backup, 5.9 grade. Denzel Perryman, backup, 6.2 grade. Now, these guys, Waller's a Pro Bowler. We got a Pro Bowler here. And we have Yannick Ngakoue, who has made a Pro Bowl before, was snubbed this year, in my opinion, had a top 5th PFF pass rushing grade. All these three people, everybody said was backups, and look at them now. They're starters or Pro Bowlers. Jacobs, the prospect, was right on the money. Derek Carr, it was right on the money too. Perhaps maybe a little underrated since Carr was a starter year 1 instead of year 2. But they missed the mark on some of our guys. I'm going to say that. And hopefully they miss the mark on Yannick Ngakoue and he becomes a great run defender in addition to being a great pass rusher. Kolton Miller, our left tackle, pretty much the most talented offensive lineman on our whole entire team, probably for the past 2 to 3 years since Trent Brown was so injured. UCLA, drafted in 2018, played in UCLA with Andre James, our center. Currently, 7.343 cone drill, 4.95 40-yard time with 31.5-inch vertical jump, along with 24 bench press. So when you see Kolton Miller's bench press, 24, remember what I told you about freaking Denzel Perryman, 27. So as a linebacker, you're benching more than a left tackle. And strength was not something that people talked about as being the problem for Kolton Miller coming out of college. So that just shows how strong Denzel Perryman really is, in my opinion. So high effort with some of his assets, great length, great height, great body, but stiffness. They thought Kolton Miller would have problems with these speedier pass rushers, says that he has stiff hips at times and lacks fluidity and motion, but clearly he hasn't had much trouble with that. Outside of his rookie season, Kolton Miller's played like a stud. He's been awesome. The rookie season was scary, but I'm glad we grabbed Kolton Miller, obviously a very talented player, and we'll see what he can do. Can he get into the Pro Bowl? I think he's long overdue. And it's crazy, though. You're paying this guy top left tackle money, and he hasn't been to a Pro Bowl. I mean, that's pretty intense. So you have to wonder, if he doesn't get to a Pro Bowl, then what do you do? Yeah, we won't have much dead money from Kolton Miller next year, and we do have to see how he'll fit in our system because he is a Tom Cable guy. He is a Tom Cable draft pick. He is not a Josh McDaniels guy. Do I think he can be a Josh McDaniels guy? Yes, I do think so, but you have to understand, he hasn't had a Pro Bowl season. He is one of the richest left tackles in the game right now. Hopefully he gets a Pro Bowl season. However, let's keep it real, though. The Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. Not always the most talented individuals go there. And I think evidence of that was Mac Jones being in there this past year instead of freaking Derek Carr. All right, Maxx Crosby, right? Man, probably one of the biggest steals of all time. And you called this guy a backup. You gave him a 5.9 backup special teams grade, and you really screwed up, NFL. The whole NFL screwed up because this guy is a star. He's a superstar, right? Pro was that he was long and chippy, relentless effort. People really liked his length and size, his arm length as well. Ran a 6.89 3-cone drill, 4.6 40 time, fast, man. Vertical jump, 36 inches, but he did not bench press. So you have to wonder, why did this guy not bench press? Because, it probably wasn't going to be a good bench press, right? And even on the phone, you heard Mayock tell Crosby, you got to get stronger. That's what happened during the draft call. And so he was aware of that, and that's what the con here was. His body was underdeveloped. They said he had an average burst, though. I thought that was really weird on this profile, that they talked about how he didn't have that great of a burst and whatnot, and he didn't have good timing off the snap, which was really weird because that's what he is great at today. He is so great at having relentless effort, an insane amount of stamina, and being able to time these snaps perfectly. And that's what they said was a con of his, and obviously strength. And strength has totally been remedied. I don't know what this guy did, but he's freaking ripped now. And that makes sense after you play about 3 years in the NFL with world-class professional weightlifters like Deuce Gruden, right? So the rest of the league really messed up here, and this is just another steal. And this is why you got to pay attention to these combines, but not believe everything these people say about these players coming up, because Maxx Crosby is a clear example. Darren Waller earlier, Denzel Perryman. Where the experts get it wrong. They got it wrong straight up, and they're going to get it wrong about a couple other guys that we're going to show you next. But before we get into these other players, man, I want to tell you guys that I am starting a USFL channel, United States Football League. Their first game is going to be April 16th. I want to tell you guys, I think this league is going to be really special, really different, way better than the XFL, CFL, anything that's happened before then. A lot of talented players are coming in, and I'm going to follow this league as closely as I follow the Raiders for this amount of time. It's going to be a 10-week season. It's going to be on Fox and NBC. I hope you guys will join me. The link is in the description below. Subscribe to my USFL channel to get more updates, stories, and insights on these players and on these games in the USFL, and let's have some fun over the spring. Clelin Ferrell. I know we have some hard feelings about Clelin Ferrell because it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to turn out. You know, that happens sometimes, right? And it's crazy because Mayock, Gruden, they got a lot of crap for taking Ferrell, defensive end out of Clemson in 2019 in the first round at pick number 4. But when you look at this draft profile, when you look at his combine results, everybody was saying this guy would be a good starter. 6.7 grade, year 1 quality starter. That's actually a higher grade than what Derek Carr had in his draft. 7.2 3-cone drill. Did not have a 40-time vertical jump, primarily did a pro day, but had that 25 rep bench, which is really great. up there with Kolton Miller, up there with Denzel Perryman. A great frame, great snap reaction. That's what people liked about him. And honestly, these cons, yeah, you have an unsustained burst. That's one thing here where they said he has a great burst initially when he gets off the ball, but he doesn't sustain it when getting to the quarterback. It slows down after a couple of yards, and that's a knock they have on him. But it was really tough to find some significant knocks on his game, to be quite honest. He had a very positive draft profile, similar to Josh Jacobs, where it was unanimously positive in a lot of ways, but lacking the agility, lacking the sustained burst, but the strength was not an issue for him. People thought he would do well in the NFL, even in his very first years. Not someone who would have to do some weightlifting for some time before they make an impact like Maxx Crosby, but the experts ended up being wrong here. So even when you have a positive draft profile, you got to watch out. Just like I'm saying, you could end up picking Ferrell at 4th overall. Trayvon Mullen, I think this guy is going to bounce back this next year. He was our starting corner for the past 2 years until Casey Hayward came around, and Mullen would have been our number 2 corner the whole year, but he got injured. Really talented guy. Took him out of the 2nd round in 2019. 4.46 40 time, great for a corner. 34.5 vertical jump. Honestly, one of the better profiles, probably to be quite honest, out of all these players, he had the best draft profile from what I looked at. Like, you really can't find many negatives here. And this is the one I found. Struggles versus complex routes. They mainly said, really, is that it's hard to find negatives in his game because so many college QBs feared him. In his draft profile, they talk about how he must have such an amazing reputation because QBs just don't target his way. They just did not throw the ball near Mullen's way when he was at Clemson, straight up. So really, really, really hope to see this guy bounce back, and I think he will. He's really talented, and the experts are right here. 6.3 starter within 2 years. He was a starter about a half a year when taking over for Garyon Conley after he was traded to the Texans in 2019. Tall and long, versatile in coverage, can do both man, press, zone coverage as well, and you've seen him demonstrate that in his NFL career. The struggles versus the complex routes, that is one knock they had on him, but you don't get many complex routes in college, to be quite honest. And like I said, he wasn't tested that much. So Trayvon Mullen, this is somebody I want you to get optimistic about this upcoming season. Now, this is my favorite guy. This is my favorite guy. It's freaking Hunter Renfrow. Clemson 2019. Everybody said, oh man, he's not that athletic. Oh man, he's not that talented. Oh man, he's just going to be good in college. Well, he was just at the Pro Bowl last year, so you're all wrong, right? But to be honest, this grade was actually more favorable than I thought. 6.1 draft profile grade. Said that he would be a backup who could eventually start, and that's kind of what happened. I mean, he was a backup for most of 2019, like Mullen, ended up taking over and having a more significant role before he had that rib injury. Then he had to be taken out a little bit, but 4.59 40-yard time. Typically not that good for a wide receiver that's under 6 feet tall. 6.8 3-cone drill. Vertical jump, still really good at 35 inches in a 7-rep bench. Not that amazing, right? But he is clutch and has sharp breaks in his routes. One thing that they said in his draft profile that I thought was very interesting as well was the fact that he's able to find open space when the play breaks down, when there's a route that you got to improvise because it is broken down. They said this guy is just great at finding space, and I think you've seen that over his career time and time again. His connection with Derek Carr with improvising is so amazing and so great, and I hope they re-sign both these guys so we have that for years to come. Undersized, we all know he's undersized and lacks deep speed. That's what they said, but isn't this just so crazy? You can have a profile like this. You can have a guy who doesn't do well at the combine, who's not a physical freak, and he arguably ends up being the best receiver of the 2019 draft class. I know there's some others who are great, but who was at the Pro Bowl last year? You got Keenan in the AFC. You got Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, and freaking Hunter Renfrow, man. That's what it's really all about. So, and I'm blanking on one other guy, and I know I'm blanking on one other guy in the Pro Bowl. I know that. I'm really glad that we picked up Hunter Renfrow, a talented player, and hopefully we re-sign this guy. I think he's going to be asking for some decent money, despite what Raider Nation wants to hear. This guy does deserve close to the double digits because, look, he's number one at his position at the slot. He could start for many other teams, and he's a Pro Bowler, and he beat the odds, and he hasn't made his money. He's not like a lot of people. He got drafted in the 5th round. He hasn't got paid a substantial amount of money. I think he deserves some compensation for all the hard work he's put into it. Let me know what you guys think. Yo, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just want to preview and show some of our favorite players, what they did in the Combine, because the Combine's this week. And us here at the Raiders Rundown, we're going to keep you up to date on the Combine. We're going to keep you up to date on who the Raiders are looking at. We're going to keep you up to date on who the Raiders are talking to in free agency. We know free agency opens March 14th, but hey, they talk before that, bro, just on the down low, and we'll let you know what's going on. This is Wi-Fi Willie of the Raiders Rundown. Peace out and have a good one.